Hi, everybody. I'm Melanie Russell. I am the executive director of ToLabor, which is an international doula training and certifying organization. And you're listening to ToRAISE Questions, a doula podcast. I'm really glad you're here. Today, we are joined by the lovely Sarah Cole. Hi, Sarah.
Hello. It's good to see you.
Thanks for coming back.
I'm so glad to be back.
You're back. So you will recognize Sarah from one of our other episodes recently where we talked about our upcoming retreat. And Sarah is also a birth doula for A Brighter Birth and is our education coordinator for A Brighter Birth as well. Sarah also teaches the breastfeeding class, designed and teaches the breastfeeding class that we offer. And what else do you do, Sarah?
Teaching the birth classes and just got to join ToLabor on the retreat, teaching doulas how to support people through the breastfeeding process, which was really special. And I'm really glad. It was a really lovely weekend. So
it was beautiful.
It was so special. It was very inspiring too. And it was like, I think that there's a lot of value in going, even if you have trained somewhere else, or maybe you trained somewhere, even if you trained with ToLabor like a long time ago. It was really lovely to revisit and come back and be so inspired and like, oh my gosh, yes, I love this job. And
I was inspired.
Yeah, I totally was inspired. It was really, really fun to come to get to do. So that was that's kind of the most recent thing that I've added on.
Yeah, we'll do it again.
Yeah.
We're already talking dates and locations.
Already looking at it.
Get ready.
Can't wait.
In the moment of it, in the thick of it, you know, it's like, this is a lot of work. And then as soon as it's done, like, let's do it again.
Well, and it was the first time we did such a big thing together. Yeah. And so I feel like hopefully next time, now that we've got like, okay, and it went so smoothly. It was great. Beautifully. Yeah.
So today we are talking about the happenstance, the situation when a doula is called to more than one birth at a time or has back-to-back births happening. Yeah. And we lovingly refer to this as a birth bender.
Yes. Because it feels just as destructive.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does. And so we've both been in that position multiple times. First of all, walk us through what that might look like and kind of what are some feelings that come up if you are at a birth already and you get that call for the next one, or you're just sinking into bed from the last one, and then you get that next text.
That's always when it comes to, you're like, okay, I did it. I'm home. And you close your eyes, and it's just enough that I've just drifted off to sleep. And then boom, the phone rings. And it's like, oh my gosh, I cannot believe this has happened. I can't believe it.
Yes.
Yeah. So, I mean, this type of thing is something, I mean, I've been doing this for 7 years. I think no matter how long you've been doing this work, like, if you've done it for more than a year, it's going to happen to you. And I'll be totally honest that it's part of the thrill of doing the work. I would be lying if I didn't say that there's some adrenaline, some special kind of adrenaline that you get on day 3 that can't really be replicated anywhere else. But there's also that sense of exhaustion. And it could come with 2 people at the same time, and how am I going to manage this? But, you know, when I really think about those like really impactful birth benders that I've had, that I've just like, I cannot believe I made it through this. It's always a weekend, right? Yeah. It's always happening on the weekend. Like, I can't believe I made it through this weekend, was when it was back to back to back to back babies. And they just kind of fall like dominoes. And, you know, you have to go into it with a sense of trust that it's going to all work out. And yes, there's a little bit of panic that inside you're kind of like, oh my gosh, I'm dealing with this thing. And then also you have to remember that you are with the person that you're with at this current moment, and they deserve as much of your attention as you can possibly give them.
Yeah.
And that may mean that you are feeling your phone buzz in your back pocket while you're doing some hip squeezes, and you kind of turn to the partner like, hey, why don't you try some of these real quick, and why don't you take over these? I'm going to go refill this water. And then you get out in the hall and you're kind of
refill
texting
the
off.
Water trick.
Bless that water. Just keep hydrated. So I have a reason to step out, or I'm going to refill my water. And it's a lot. It can make you feel like, oh my gosh, I can't, like, what is this job? Mm-hmm. Which I have said out loud to many
times,
many people.
What is this job? What is this life?
What have I done to myself? But it's also, like I said, I think that there's a certain personality that kind of also finds this work. That, do I love it in the moment? Maybe just 50%. But if I look back, I'm like, yeah, I do thrive off of a little bit of this.
Yeah, I was going to say, someone who has a blended family of 6 children ranging from 15 to 21 and running 3 different businesses, I must thrive on chaos somehow.
You have to know it about yourself a little bit.
There has to be a little bit of a thrill in the act of coordinating, multitasking, putting a plan together. And then when it all works out, sitting back and being like, I did it. Good job.
Yeah.
Feeling like somehow we've all made it through and everyone got supported.
Yeah. There is a certain feeling that, like, when you get through it, that you're like, holy cow, like, I cannot believe that just worked out. And it often does.
We're knocking on all the wood.
All the things. It often does.
It always does.
Yeah.
But that's because, too, in our practices, and clearly Sarah and I work together, we do a lot of prep with our clients, with our team, with ourselves, with each other to prepare for such a happening.
Yeah. And I think that's a big thing, like, about these is that, first of all, preventing them from happening in the first place by being really realistic about how many people you can take.
You're taking, exactly.
And I think that can be, with this job, it can always be like too much and never enough. We got to make money. We pay bills.
Yeah.
Like we've got to take on a client load.
Yeah. What's your average client load? What would you say?
So it's really funny because I feel comfortable at 4. Mm-hmm. Between my 4 children, wanting to be present for them, the work that I do in addition, teaching classes, the breastfeeding stuff, and 4 feels really comfortable for me.
Mm-hmm. A month,
mm-hmm. Yeah. I can get all 4 in one weekend, which did happen, for me in August, where I also had to attend a wedding in there, and I also had my son's birthday in there. So, there's also life stuff that makes that, really crazy. But 4 feels comfortable to me. I've tested 5. I think I've even kind of pushed it with 6 one month when I had like a repeater, and most of them were second-time parents, which moves a little bit faster. But the other thing that I try to look at is just, are these all primates? Is everybody having their first baby? In which case, 3, and then maybe I could take off on someone having their second baby, but I can't take any more primates because that's just going to require way more time and effort. And not just time and effort in the work that you're there with them, but even in the lead up, making sure that they have the education and the information and really being present for them. Mm-hmm. But yeah, best laid plans, and I always, you can't ask everybody to go 1 a week. They're just going to go when they go.
Yeah.
And
So talk to me about due dates.
Yeah, I feel good taking due date buddies. Yeah. So I really love a due date buddy because I know that the chances now. I did very recently have 2 people go at 38 weeks. Not only did I have 2 primates with AROM at 38 weeks, which the odds of that, there is nothing could have planned for that. And they were due date buddies.
So SROM. So their water broke at home. So spontaneous rupture of membranes. Yep. So, okay. So you had 2 first timers.
I had 2
first timers. Did they have the same due date?
They had buddy due dates.
And then they both went 2 weeks early.
2 weeks early.
Not
Sorry,
fair.
with actually it was premature rupture of membranes. So both of them had water breaking before
No contractions.
contractions started at 38 weeks.
I still feel like that is the trickiest scenario.
2 days apart. I mean, 1 day apart, like basically the same day. So,
okay. So, and the due date question we get a lot because we, at A Brighter Birth, our doula collective, we do a group prenatal meeting with folks, and we meet with everybody online at when everyone's around 34 weeks pregnant, and it tends to be a very large meeting. And so we have all of our doulas in there. We have all of their clients in there. And everyone is due around the same time. And then we have everyone introduce themselves and we say, please share your names and one fun fact about this pregnancy. Please do not share your due date.
yes.
It's
Please
very
do not.
clear because we don't want to get any nerves going within the group.
And the majority of the time that I've gotten these like 2 people right on top of each other have been due dates that are weeks apart. 3 weeks apart, 2 weeks
Yes.
apart, like weeks apart. So aside from my one, very weird prom
it's so interesting.
thing that I think just like the stars aligned and that's what happened. It's usually, somebody was kind of a September due date and they've bled into October. And then I had some early October people who, and they all kind of collide.
The wackiest time that I've had 2 people deliver on the same day. One was due December 18th. One was due February 2nd. And they both delivered on January 1st.
That's wild.
Yeah.
Did you make it to both?
I did.
Yeah.
You would never expect those 2 due dates to go on the same.
Nope.
So yeah, there's definitely the wild card just to being a doula of you never know when you're going to work and for how long you'll be there. So then what is some other prep? What's some prep that you do to have your clients be prepared for potentially this occurring, you being there, maybe a backup being there? How do you talk about that?
So I talk about it in the interview. So this is something that before we're even working together, that they know. And we work together with A Brighter Birth. We have an amazing team.
Yeah.
And so one of the wonderful things that I can talk to, during the interview is that we have this amazing team to pull from. And we have this group prenatal where they get a chance to see their faces. I also always tell them that, if there is a person that like, maybe they were thinking about hiring another doula and it was between me and that other doula and they picked me. And I'm like, if you really like this other doula, then I can ask them specifically if they would be willing to be the backup for you. And I have done that personally. Maybe I taught class and really bonded with somebody who had a different doula and that was a part of the ABB team. And, they were like, could you back up, and I'm happy to do that. And that's one of the wonderful things about working with a team.
Yeah.
But we talk about it prenatally. I have only had to call, the 7 years that I've been doing this, I have only had to call a backup 5 times.
Wow. That's impressive.
Ever. And I talk about that in the prenatal. Now, that's because I don't take more than 4 a month.
Right.
And so, I understand that for a lot of people, that's not possible. They're going to need to take more folks or
1 month is wonky and they have a few repeaters slide in there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so, but for me, that's something I work really, really hard to do. And I think that because of that too, when I do need to call a backup, they know I'm serious.
Yeah.
That it's not because like, I don't want to miss my kid's soccer game or I don't want to like, if I'm pulling a backup, there's a snafu.
There's a snafu.
It's pretty serious.
And there are times that we have to plan to have a backup just be that first on call during a time that we know we're going to be out of town.
Yeah.
As a doula trainer, I have to take weekends that I do the 2 labor trainings and have someone assigned to be that first on call backup for the whole weekend.
Yeah.
And so then my clients know exactly who that person is. I'm paying that person a retainer most times to just have them be on call. Maybe they're even just texting answers for me while I'm teaching, so I don't have to worry about that. This past year, my youngest became a volleyball star. And so we had a travel team, our first experience with travel sports, and which I think is like the antithesis of doula work, like being travel sports. It's so hard.
That is a very difficult combo.
Very hard. And so I had to lean on the team a lot and have people really be there for those weekends that I had to be away. And it all worked out.
Yeah.
It all worked out. So I think with a lot of prep work with communication.
Yeah.
With your clients ahead of time.
And having them understand why I might call a backup.
Right.
Like, here are the situations. Here's when I won't call a backup. And here's when I will.
Yes.
If I am out of town, if I have, really big.
An event.
Thing. Exactly.
Yeah,
for example,
something.
This weekend that I had lots of people, it happened to be that nobody went into labor on the Saturday that I had the wedding. I had a Friday, I had a Sunday, I had a Monday, and then, but
they gave you the wedding. That's nice.
They gave me the wedding, but I had a backup plan for the wedding.
Of course you did.
So, and they understood. I said, this is a very intimate, small wedding, and it's one of my husband's best friends. So I'm going to be there, and I'm going to have a glass of wine, and I'm going to enjoy myself. And if you need anybody, this is your person. And this is, text me first. I want to know first, but I
can help troubleshoot.
Exactly.
But when it's looking like things are real, then we'll transfer this communication over. Yeah. Yeah. And I think when I started doing this work, it was, I have to miss everything. I have to miss kids' birthdays. I have to miss Christmas. I have to miss weddings and, parents retiring and their celebrations. And now I think with this team that we've built, it's become much more sustainable to be able to say, yes, I am your doula. I am your primary doula. I am going to be there with you, through the education, the prep work. But I also am a human being, and I have people that are important to me in my life. And I have things that come up that I really don't necessarily want to miss all the time.
Yeah.
And so I think just being very transparent about what those dates are, that's usually, I do the same thing as you, talk about it in the interview, but sometimes things pop up because people might hire you at 8 weeks pregnant.
True. Yeah.
And then fast forward 7 months later, you've got something on the calendar. When I close my book at our in-person prenatal visit, which is typically 36, 37 weeks, when I go to their house, I'm very old school. I have a paper calendar. I love it. I have everything in there. I take all of my client notes in the same book. Sarah and I are very similar with this. And I say, okay, now that we have everything, all of your stuff is talked about. We have your birth preferences written down. I've toured your home to talk about all of the positions and things we might use. Now let's talk about the dates that you're not allowed to have your baby.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I go through the calendar and say, okay, this is the only thing I have within this window where you're due. And is there anyone that you have your eye on for being your first on-call backup? Of course, they're also a doula.
Yeah.
And so they might not be present, like physically able to be present, but they can at least be that person that is your first call.
Yeah.
So I think transparency is key.
I agree. I also do a little, so when we do our group prenatal, and I usually send out a reminder to everybody that group in an email, that group prenatal is coming up. I do housekeeping in that too. I'm like, hey, by the way, and I'll send to people, even if I'm like, hey, I'm going to be out of town, next weekend. I understand that you might not be due at that time, but if you are, or something happens, here's a number to call, or here's whatever. So I usually also am looping in people who are not 38 weeks yet, if I'm going to be out of town for a little while. And then again, when you work with a really great team, you can say, hey, would you be up for just being a call person? And normally they don't, it's fine,
Yeah.
They get it.
You can make a little bit of money. And also with our team specifically, we have a whole chapter of just backup doulas. So we have our primary birth doula team, and then we have a birth doula chapter where they're not necessarily taking their own clients. They are strictly there to back us up if we need it, which is so nice and stemmed from I think it was January of 2024, where I believe we had 10 ABB babies in a 3-day period.
It was insane.
It was absolutely insane. I was on my deathbed. I was so sick.
Yeah.
2 doulas were out of town. Another doula had COVID.
I don't think I remember
somebody was on
that
their
this happened.
maternity
I don't
leave.
remember how many, if I went, because I think I blacked that whole week out. Like, I remember us like going through like, how many has it been? Like, and we were texting.
2 of them were mine.
Yeah. I think I had 2 or
awful.
3 because I remember being completely slammed.
Yeah. Everybody got a doula.
Everybody got there.
The clients didn't feel the stress, which I think is the main importance here. You know, we talk about in our training how even before walking into the birth room, we have to unzip our ego and our whole story of anything that's happening with us and leave it outside. And this experience is about them. So they may know, you know, obviously my clients knew that I was sick and I was sending them a backup, but they didn't know that I was also crying in my bathroom, you know, so upset and frustrated. And they, you know, you make connections and build relationships with your clients. You don't want to miss these births.
Well, and that's
It's
the thing.
sad.
I love them. Like, I want to be there. I want to be there for them. That's why I do this work, you know, is that I really want to be there for them. I think, well, and first of all, it's kind of cool to just be a backup doula.
Yeah.
That is kind of a cool, like, it's a
great way to break into it too, as a new doula.
Exactly. And it's a nice way of managing, especially if, you know, it's not a time in your life where you can take that full load, but so it's really great to have that. I will be honest in the birth room, you know, in the birth space, if I'm like running into something.
Yeah.
I have said to people, hey, I've got someone else in labor. If I'm stepping out from time to time, it's just because I've got to get them covered. But I'm here for you, you know, and I am going to stay here with you.
Yeah.
And I think because that transparency is important. And, you know, a lot of times they're like, oh my gosh, that's so crazy. Like, your job is so crazy. And I'm like, yes,
Yes,
it is. It is really crazy. I'm going to go fill up your water again. And I'm going to go make sure that they're covered. Obviously, I would not do that if they were, you know, in transition or in the throes of whatever, or pushing, you know. But, you know, maybe they have an epidural or maybe they've gotten settled. And I think, you know, it's totally okay to say, hey, I've got to go manage this with another person.
And that's where the collaboration comes in too, of having the team.
Yeah.
You can talk to the nurse. Can you take over this for a second? I just have to step out real quick. Maybe set them up in the bathroom, do some dilation station on the toilet time, and then just step outside of the room.
Yeah. And we talked, you know, when we got together and did the podcast last time about how helpful it was to have a relationship with the nurses and with because that was 2 of the 4 that I had that weekend. That it's so nice if you are working well as a team, if you know that place where you're working. But even if you don't know it yet, even if you're newer and you're just getting to know people, that collaboration is such a big, important part of making sure that they're getting the care that they need. Your client doesn't just need you. They need that whole team to be working together. And so if you're also kind of trying to figure out, scrambling last minute to get something taken care of, if you've helped them prenatally, if you've made sure that we helped them get a team that they really, you know, love, that their partner is prepared, that they're prepared for labor, if you step out for 5 minutes to make a phone call, like, it's going to be okay.
Absolutely. This is what we talk about too, how you cannot be the end all be all for your clients, where if you are the only person that your client is coming to for doula care, childbirth education, lactation education, postpartum doula, any sort of evidence, you know, research happening, if they only have you to go to, then if you are if you need to bring in a backup, then they're going to feel that much more intensely.
Absolutely.
But if you're able to delegate some of those responsibilities, first of all, if they're hearing the same message that you're sending from their CBE teacher, their lactation educator, their postpartum doula, their pediatrician, their chiropractor, their pelvic floor PT, it's going to be more believable rather than just one person sending that message. And then they'll feel like they're really part of a community instead of just, oh my gosh, if Sarah can't be there, I'm lost without Sarah.
Which, if that is what you have created, that is not in service to your client. That's in service to you.
Right. Right.
Like if you put yourself in a situation where, everybody's personality is different. So every once in a while you're like, I have done my best not to create this.
Yes.
And yet, and some people just do bond more strongly. And likewise, totally. I have clients that I'm like, if I am not at this birth, I'm going to cry for days and days. Like I really, really, really want to be there. I want to be there to all my births, but like this one, I'm like, there's something about it. Yeah. I'm really looking forward to.
Or you have a special friend, or
exactly.
I had two people go into labor once, and they were both very special to me, and I sent you to the other one, and still I'm sad about it.
I know. But that's just, the truth. I had to send, one of the few times I did need to call it back up. This client and I got along really well, and I missed the entire active part of their labor. I showed up when the epidural came, and I was I still got there. I'm glad it was there. We had a great time,
and they had a backup for that whole time. And
they had a wonderful backup, and she was so thankful. Mm-hmm. I'm so glad, that you sent her, and she was exactly, what I needed. But I'm still like, damn it.
Yeah. Then there's some times too where you get to overlap with your backup, which is fun. We've had a couple of instances where we get to take pictures of each other doing hip squeezes and setting the room up, and
you get to learn a little too, and you get to see, this is what we talk about with providers when we say, one provider doesn't get to see how another provider works.
Right.
Well, with us, same with doula work, we don't, hey, we're going to have 15 doulas at your birth so that we can all see what we do, right? So, I love working with another doula. Mm-hmm. And in the chances that I've gotten to have a little bit of overlap or gotten to work with another doula, it's been really cool. I've really, really enjoyed that. So there can be a lot of benefits to having a really great team, and a lot of benefits for your client too. And one of the things that you and I have both said to clients is you have two doulas now.
Yeah.
You have, me, and you have Melanie, or, whoever. Now you can message either one of us if you have a question.
More support.
Yeah.
The more, the better. So, okay, we've talked about preparing the client for this. Now, how about preparing your support network at home for this? And how, when you are traveling from one birth to another potentially, what is your kind of self-care practice between those and then after?
Yeah. And that is one that I did not do very well this last time, partially because of this birthday and because of this wedding. And I had to just kind of
no recovery
go
time
on as usual and with the rest of the week. Yeah. But ideally, I'm taking that next day or two. And it does, these doula benders don't happen often, but when they do, ideally that next 24 hours is rest and recovery. That might mean that I don't see a postpartum client in that normal 4 days after that I normally would. And I just say, hey, look, they usually understand. Yeah. I'll talk to you by phone if there's a problem, but I'm not going to be able to come and see you right away because I'm just out of birth again. Look, we're both tired.
Right. Oh, here we are. But then hopefully you've set them up to have a different sort of support there to fill in those gaps.
Exactly. And I'm still available by text or available by phone call. I think having a really honest conversation when you go into this work with your family about what it might look like. And my family, my kids range in age. I've got one in college, one in high school, one in middle school, one in elementary school. So we've got a big, wide spread. And I've been doing this for a very, very long, for 7 years. So for at least one of my kids, the entirety pretty much of his little life.
Yeah.
And so they've gotten very used to it. But one of the things that we talk about is one of the wonderful benefits of this job is that I get to be home with them a lot. I get to be home with them a lot more than I would if, say, I was a nurse and I was working 3/12s, and those, regardless whether those 12s were during the day or at night, because I would still have to recover during the day. But that it does mean that I'm going to be moving around a little bit and that I'm going to be gone. And I usually point out to my kids, hey, but for example, this August kind of situation I got into, I was like, you know what, after this, my schedule's clear.
Yeah.
Like everybody just got, this is one crazy week and then my schedule's going to be clear, but I'm going to need a little bit of time to recover. And they have adjusted really well to that. My partner is really, really also super supportive. And so he just kind of, we've been married for 20 years. And so we've kind of seen each other each have a period of time where we just need to put our heads down and get through it.
And it's not allowed to be at the same time.
It's not allowed to be at the same time. And if it is at the same time, it's like, okay, we understand this is a circumstance that it is, and this is not about blame. We're just going to just get through it, and then we're trying to come back to each other as fast as we can. And so, I might turn to him and just be like, I just need a couple of days. Like, I'm out. I can't. I don't have it. It's not here. And then the other thing we try to do as much as we can, this is sort of advice that I also give when I talk about postpartum preparedness, like, what can we outsource? If that means that I get Instacart, to bring my groceries to me, I have done that from the hospital because my kids are at home with no milk.
100%. 100%. I have ordered pizza while pushing.
Oh, totally. Absolutely. Because I've been like,
Mom,
so
I'm hungry.
I know. I'm like, here you go. Groceries are coming. If that means Instacart, if that means, outsourcing laundry, if that means that there's something, and also looking around and being like, whatever this is, it doesn't need to get done right now.
Yes.
I need to rest and recover.
And prioritizing.
Yeah, just like we talk about with postpartum, if you don't take that time to recover, then that fallout that you're feeling is going to last a lot longer. Yeah. So you're not going to be able to come back to it.
I saw something the other day that said you don't have to be good at everything. Pick one thing to be really, really good at. And that kind of transferred to me as I don't have to be doing everything at all times.
Right.
I can compartmentalize because I have a lot going on. And, I just ran another retreat this past weekend, and we lived with bags of groceries and all of my dishes and my decorations and everything completely covering the dining room table and the floor surrounding you. Could not walk into the dining room for a few days until yesterday when I finally had a gap in my day that I could actually organize and put everything away. And every time I walked into that house to see that mess, I'm definitely one of the people that are like, if my house is messy, then that means my life is messy. My car is messy. My life is messy.
My car is just, I gave up on that.
Don't look at how many cans of Waterloo I have in my car. But I had to remind myself, I have to be good at something else right now. This isn't what is pulling my attention. It's fine. It can stay there. It's not hurting anybody.
Exactly. Yeah. Really prioritizing that. And if it is something that is going to make it too difficult for you, like if it is something, then really being open with your partner and being like, I need this to be taken care of, but I can't.
Yeah.
And I need to pass this off to you.
Yeah.
Here it is. And then we just accept the way that is done.
Yes. And having a partner that also can see that without you having to say anything.
Well, that's magic.
Oh, it's magic. It happens. It's like a unicorn. It comes out once every
and then it's
blue
like,
moon.
oh my gosh, this is exactly what I needed.
The dishes are actually done. I didn't have to ask for anything.
Exactly.
This is so nice.
Yeah. And I really am thankful. It's funny. My husband is a teacher, and so there were many times that he would be home in summers and I would be working or busy either at a different job before I was a doula or a doula. And it's so interesting because he would be the stay-at-home parent. And then I would come home and I'd be like, I don't know what we have. Like, I don't know where anything is. You know what I mean? Like, and I was like, oh, okay, that's what it feels like. Okay, got it. And I do feel like after these doula benders after these, birth benders that you've been 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 days gone, or maybe not gone the 5th day, but kind of dead, like not really worth anything. It's kind of like waking up and being like, what day is it? And where am I?
Yeah.
And
very disorienting.
Having a partner that can take care of those things so that you're like, okay, well, everything kept on going. And I think that's another important thing to think about kind of on both ways, right? My clients were fine with the backup, right? If that's what I needed, or my clients and my family, if I have this great support system, my family is fine. Kind of like you said, I don't need to be everything to everyone at this moment,
you have to take care of yourself.
Yeah. That's why, that's what prevents burnout.
Absolutely. And that's why we're doing our trainings differently now, with kind of incorporating these wellness activities and really tools to help ground yourself, even if you have a 45-minute car ride from one hospital to the next. Just putting on some I have been so tired before that I can't fall asleep when I have an hour window between things. And so I will, go on Instagram and find people that do Reiki over the screen.
Reiki me.
Or just like put on, a calming musical playlist, or even just like nature sounds, something that disrupts the activity in my brain.
Yeah.
To be able to have that turn off so I can actually fall asleep. I have taken naps in my car.
Oh, totally.
So many times. I actually keep a blanket in my car for that specific purpose.
Yep.
But also just making sure you're hydrating yourself and eating as well, and making sure you have your snack bag is replenished every time you leave a birth. You're filling that sucker back up so you have electrolytes. All the things we tell people to eat and drink in labor is important for us to remember too. Electrolytes, protein, carbs, sugar, hydration, so important.
Yeah. Similarly, taking advantage of, because there are going to be, so maybe we have 4 babies in 3 days, right? We're not just kind of like we tell, I talk to clients too, when people talk about like, oh, X number of hours of pushing or whatever. It's like, well, you're not pushing the whole time, right? We're not, there are moments of quiet and moments of calm in labor, and, finding those moments and taking advantage of that,
focusing on the breaks.
Exactly. And maybe I can't sleep here, but maybe I can mimic sleep. Same thing that I've told
mimicking
people.
Sleep as a tool.
Yeah, absolutely. Maybe I can just go into dreamland for a little while. If it's, I'm waiting on the other thing. And I think this just takes time of doing the work. But if there is someone who hasn't called me yet, but I know that they might, I need to find some way to turn off. And this is something that as a newer doula was very hard for me. I'd be like, oh, they're going to call me any minute. I don't want to sleep, or don't want to whatever. I'm going to kind of mess around and wait. Do anything to not go over there quite yet, but I know that they will need me. And now it is like, oh, okay, somebody's going to need me. Bedtime, right?
Yep.
It's time for me to nap. I don't care. It's 3:00 in the afternoon.
Yes.
Well, I'm going to lay down for a nap because when they call me, they're going to need me.
Yep.
And so as soon as I've got someone on my radar, I'm prioritizing sleep.
Absolutely.
Or something that looks like it.
And just like we tell them to do.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. Now, and that's a great way to communicate that, okay, it sounds like this prodromal labor is maybe starting to tip into your real early labor phase. And that's great. And remember what this phase is for: rest.
Yeah.
So while you guys are prioritizing rest, I'm going to do the same. So why don't we check back in with each other in 2 hours? Here's our next check-in meeting time. Obviously, if something happens, if something changes, please reach out to me ahead of time, in that window. But otherwise, let's all take a beat and try to rest for 2 hours.
Absolutely. Yeah. And really modeling that. I've done that in the evening as maybe we had prodromal labor all day and it's kind of unclear where we're going with this, and just being like, you know what, the best thing for all of us right now is sleep. So I will literally say, okay, I'm just checking in before I go to bed, and hopefully before you go to bed too.
Yes.
And, that way, I don't hear from them every hour.
Usually they're very respectful of that.
Well, and hopefully they're getting some sleep too.
Yes.
Hopefully.
Which is probably harder for them to do.
Much harder
but,
for them to
yeah.
do. But you know what? I'm at this point now, I turn off like a light when it's time.
Yeah.
But it took me a while to get there. I was not a good napper until I became a doula.
Mm-hmm.
And now
Same.
and if that
now
means
I can
like
sleep anywhere.
sleep mask or earbuds or whatever, listen to some music or something, then I will do that. But
yeah. And then, so when you do call in a backup, how do those postpartum visits go?
I like it when we do them together.
Me too.
So that's something that I did with you when I started backing you up, and I really like it. I really like it for the client.
Yes.
I think that it ties everything up really nicely with the client. And I just worked with someone as a backup recently, and I guess in some other situations she hadn't done the postpartum. I don't know how much she had backed up those births, if it was the whole birth or not. But afterwards she was like, I'm so glad I got to see her again and I got to spend time with her again. And I was like, yeah, absolutely. Like we all need to see each other again. They had met when she was in the throes of labor.
Yes.
She supported her only while labor was really hard. So, half the time my client's eyes were closed.
Right. Like you've only been looking at my backside for the past 3 hours. This is what my face actually looks like. It's nice to see you.
Yeah. It's
Thanks
nice
for
to
those
see
hip
you.
squeezes.
Thanks for the hip squeezes. And like, and really getting a chance to like kind of come together and feel like a team. And so, yeah.
And really be able to process the birth. I mean, we're only bringing in more support at that point. And so then the client has the front side support of what the planning process looked like, the prep process looked like. And then we have the backup doula who was actually there putting it into practice, what we had discussed and what we had talked about for months and months. And so I think it's helpful for the client to feel that support and be able to sort of reiterate what their experience was through it. Because of course their experience is always going to be a little bit different from what our experience is.
Totally.
Yeah.
Which is always, that is something that can surprise me so much. I'm like, oh, we were at 2 different births.
Yeah, I know. And of course, as doulas, when we hear someone explaining their birth differently than how we remember it, we don't say, no, that's not what happened.
That didn't happen. What are you talking about?
I remember one of my births, ToRAISE asked me a question during transition. And I remember looking at her like she was absolutely nuts. And the question was, do you want me to put your hair in a ponytail? And I remember being like, what? I don't know where a hair thing is. I can't even.
What hair?
I can't get out of this position of hands and knees.
What does that mean? Do I have to do anything?
Right. I don't understand the context of this question at all. And she just kind of looked at me and just like went, okay, never mind. And then later when I brought it up at Birth Circle and shared my birth story, she was like, I didn't ask you that question. And I was like, yes, you did. And you told me you can't say no, that didn't happen.
Funny.
So funny.
What people remember and what they don't.
Yep.
It always cracks me up. Yeah. So, but yeah, and get to hear, and I think it's also a learning opportunity to do those together too, because I learn from, it doesn't matter if the doula has been doing it for 6 months or a year, just like I learn at every birth. I learned from every other doula, and I'm like, oh, wow, that's really cool that
different
you did that.
Questions to ask.
Absolutely.
Rabbit holes to go down, different resources.
Yeah. And I think if we, it was funny, we were talking just briefly earlier about like no ego, if we approach this with no ego and, we have so many opportunities to learn from these scenarios. And sometimes it's very obvious, like sometimes back-to-back births and you're like, wow, I can take directly what I just learned in this one and try to apply it to this one. But sometimes it's just like, oh, wow, like I love the softness and the gentleness with the way this doula has approached something, or I love the wording that they used. Yeah. And so, just trying to soak up everything you can learn from the situation.
I think it's really special and cool too to have 2 people at the same time, maybe in different phases of labor in the same hospital.
Yes.
That's happened to me,
which I've had
actually quite a bit, where I've had to run from one room to another. And it's always so fascinating how different yet similar the spaces are. You know, you're walking into completely different scenarios, families, dynamics, birth plans, phases of labor.
Yeah.
And so you have to, a skill that a doula really needs to have intact is the ability to read a room and the ability to acclimate quickly into a situation or a space.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think I learned that a lot as a backup when I was like from my backup work. So, which was just like, every time I came into, I don't know these people. Usually when you are calling in a backup, they are in the throes of labor. You don't normally get that call until things are going down.
Yep. We've already troubleshot and we have determined it is labor.
And the doula that you're backing up for has done everything they possibly can to be there. And they know that, okay, we've come to this, like, I've got to make this call. I'm not going to be able to make it for whatever reason. You need to go in. And, you know, and learning to just come in and take a quick pause and not do anything right away.
Yes.
Just come in, look around and be like, okay, I'm just going to watch this dynamic real quick and like see what's okay. I'm going to get an idea of this provider. I'm going to get an idea of this dynamic with this, you know, maybe I'll come in and like do a hip squeeze. But my preference is just when I come in real quick to do nothing.
I love that.
And just watch and then see where I'm needed.
Exactly. Because and as a newer doula, I know that I did this. I know I walked straight into a room and inserted myself into a dynamic that didn't need me quite yet. And that's where, you know, the energy is so palpable in that room. And a birthing person is feeling all of their senses double, triple, quadruple heightened, and everything is super uber sensitive. And you can really disrupt a really nice pattern if they've been doing this for a while already. And so I love that. Just drop your bags. Hey, you're sounding really good.
Yeah.
Here we are.
Watch for a little while.
And just sit and watch. Maybe then even, how are you on waters? Can I go fill up your waters for you? Like, what needs to be done right now so you two can still be doing what you're doing? And then we can talk about what is it that you need from me.
Exactly. Yeah. That I think that moment of just kind of assessment and pause. So that you don't get in there and start messing with things that don't need to be messed with.
Yeah. Because then it can really throw that energy off. You know, oxytocin is shy. Oxytocin is not going to want to pump out with a lot of eyes around, staring and watching and judging and critiquing and all of the hands coming in. You know, we need to coax it. We need to be gentle with it and coax it. And so creating that like very trustworthy, lush environment of calm and sensual. If that's, you know, what your clients are going for, then you are absolutely not going to step in between them.
Not touching that.
No thanks.
We got to put boundaries somewhere.
That's right.
I always joke that like I've got to, as a doula, I have to have boundaries, and my boundaries, you know, like there has to be a stopping place.
Yes.
I will touch your butt, as I will, you know, be doing hip squeezes and whatever else, but I will not get in the tub with you, and I don't get in the shower with you. And that's, we got to put the line.
I have a very dear friend who was a doula client of mine for both of her babies. And with the first one, she looked at me and said, well, go put your bathing suit on so you can get in the shower with us. And I was like, I love you, but that is not happening.
But not that much. Not that much.
Darn. Yeah. Left my bathing suit at home.
And when we have those births in a row, not taking whatever energy we had going on in that birth, that is a really challenging, whether we have them in the same room or different hospitals or whatever, whatever we've got going on in here, not maybe take the lessons from there, but not take the energy from that birth and put it into the other one.
Great tip.
Because they are separate births. They are separate, different things. And it's so funny because after one of these back to back to back situations after one of these benders. And I go to the postpartum visit. I'm like, tell me about your birth, because
I don't remember which one
I have to be real careful not to say that I don't remember. I'm like, okay, was that the one? Okay, which one?
The details
did
are fuzzy.
that? The details get fuzzy. And so really have your listening ears on and really making sure that, where we are focused on this room. And that is where notes, a notebook,
I was just going to say, yep, I have a nice little app in my phone. I use, I think it's called OB Tracker, Perfect OB Tracker, where you can put in all of your doula clients' due dates, where they're delivering, and then when they deliver, when that date was, and it's easy to pull them up, and that app tells you exactly how many weeks they are throughout the pregnancy. And then there's a notes section. And so after every birth, before I go home, because I know this information is going to go right out of my brain, is just the bullet points, at least what I can remember. When I joined them, any kind of big decisions that were made, any big changing points that happened, who the team was. I am terrible with names.
So bad at them.
And I love my nurses so much. And so I always write down the nurse, the midwife, or the doctor, anyone else pertinent that came in the room, the family members that were support people. And so before I walk into that postpartum visit, I'm like, let me brush up on my notes and just remember.
Yeah, I have the same thing. I do it in a notebook. And, I will also use my phone. So I'll take like a screenshot of my watch at a certain point in time. Like when we start smart. I usually update my partner when we start pushing so that he has a sense of like, of course it could still be 5 hours from now, but at least like he has a sense of sort of where we're at. And so I go back in my text and I look at when I've told him that we start pushing.
Great idea.
And then the other thing, because it'll be so funny because there are births where you have all that time to write those notes down and you can kind of keep them going as you go. And then there are births where you are hands on, like if you let go of their hips for 5 seconds, they will tell you. I've had people where I'm doing sits bones pressure and like the baby's coming out and I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to make some room for the midwife. And then it's like, don't. So I'm like, okay, here we are. Just do this the whole time. And so obviously I'll laugh because I'll look at my notes and there's nothing on that page. But if I go to the nurse and I say, hey, I just need a couple timestamps from you. Then I can get that skeleton outline. What time did she decide to have her water broken? What time because they've got to chart all of that stuff.
Yes.
And again, back to those relationships, if I've got a close relationship with them, they're like, yeah, no problem. And then we just get down. I'm like, okay, great. And then I have that outline of what happened and when. And usually my clients really love to have that.
I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, tell us about a doula experience that you've had. And of course, we want it to be related to a birth bender that you've been on. I know you've shared a few little tidbits throughout, but what's something that really sticks out in your mind about your own experience being in that situation?
Yeah, well, I shared one kind of last time too. I remember that the first time this really, really happened to me was Labor Day weekend of all weekends.
Of course.
Of course it was. It was like everybody's taking this entirely too literally. I'm going to need y'all to not. And I had 4 births in one weekend. And I did have to have a backup completely for one of them because I had another 2 clients just went at the same time. They were weeks apart and went at the same time from water breaking and labor and everything on. And that really did I had too many people on my calendar. I had taken too many folks and I hadn't paid attention to the turning of the month, right? So it's like, oh, okay, I'll take 5 clients this month, but like they were kind of clustered at the end there, right? And then I was like, oh, okay, I'll take this many clients, this next month, but they were a lot of them were up at the beginning.
Oh boy.
And so everybody collided and that really made me pause. And so this is kind of more of like a less a birth experience and more of a doula experience that made me really pause and reassess.
Yeah.
And I was like, I need a new organization system. I need a new way of looking at these interviews. I need to feel comfortable saying no. 'Cause I'm always like, yeah,
I know you are.
let's do it, and then I'm like, and that it was, I think these types of things where we get into these situations, they are really important because we learn a lot. And I was like, okay, now I've pushed my boundary of what I'm able to do. And because I hated missing that birth, and the other births, they were all primaps, they were all long. And I got sleep, I took care of myself and all of that type of stuff. But I really had to think about, how do I look at my organization and my calendar, and I'm really honest about what I can do and what I can't.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where I started falling in on those 4 births a month. Felt comfortable for me. Doesn't mean it doesn't still happen.
Right.
I could take 2 births in a month, and those 2 could go on the same day.
Of course.
That's just sort of the way it is.
Of course.
But I can stack the odds so that it doesn't happen.
Exactly.
And so that was the very first time that happened to me. Like, I'm thinking about for this conversation, was really when I decided that I needed to be more organized, and I needed to really think about and be really honest about what I could do,
what you could actually handle. My doula experience around this that I'd like to share is it actually was such a turning point in both my personal and professional life. I had 3 births happen back to back in 3 different hospitals. And it was in about a 36-hour window that all 3 of these people went. And it was like dominoes, like one went, and then as I was pushing with that person, the next text would come in, and then they had enough time to do early labor, and then they started to ramp up when I was done with that first client, and then drove to the next hospital. And it's funny, so the second birth that I was attending, the client worked in skincare, and she had brought us all these like eye patches, these eye gels, and it was an overnight birth. We were all tired. The nurses and I, the midwife, were all wearing these gel pads. She's even got them on. She's laboring. Everyone's on skincare patrol. And I, had been at another birth already, joined her with this one at, 1 a.m. at home, was with them there, came into the hospital. And I think baby had just been born, and I walked out to go get water, took my gel pads off to go out in the hallway, and ran into Hunter. Hunter Moore, she was on the podcast earlier. She's also now the ABB collective coordinator. And so she was a brand new baby doula coming in, and she was like, "You look great. Did you just get here?" And I was like, "I am dead."
I did a really good job.
What is happening? Yeah. And so she said, "I want to help. I want to be a part of whatever you're doing. I really want to get together." And so we made our first meeting in the hallway of that hospital. And then I was also newly dating, who is my husband now. And after that third birth, I was completely just done, just a pile of dust. And
looking great under the eyes, but
still
other
looking
than
great.
That,
yeah, needed a
very
fresh
tired
change of clothes for sure. I think I had like amniotic fluid on my shoe. It was just really,
it's really awkward when you go with one person's fluids and you've got to go to another birth. I do have a change of clothes because I do have because I'm just like,
you have to.
Yeah,
you have to.
In the car, that's my mobile home.
Yeah, shoes, clothes.
Yeah.
So I show up to his house, and we had a date planned, and show up to his house at the end of the third birth, and just walking zombie, and he took one look at me and said, "Okay, you sit down. I'm going to go run you a bath. I'm going to pour you a glass of wine. I've made dinner.
Keeper.
I can feed it to you in the bath if you'd like." And I said, "I just need a minute." And he said, "Great." And he lit some candles. There was a bath drawn. and left me in that room by myself for
my
like
God.
30 minutes.
That's
and I just
amazing.
thought, I'm marrying him.
I know. Keep
That's
that
it.
one.
It's done. So it's so funny in that birth bender, it was revealed to me.
Yeah.
Two people who have
Future partners in different ways.
Future partners
Yeah.
in different ways on how to really make this life and career sustainable.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's where everyone really needs to show up.
It really is. It really is. And sometimes you don't have the opportunity to just, sometimes you do just have to kind of go on with your original plans and show up for that date. But,
sometimes you have to push through.
But having the people around you that are going to love and care for you really, it just is really sustaining.
Yeah. And then, you get to have most days, if you have you're taking 4 clients a month, then that means, maybe you're out of the house that 4 to 6 days doing that job beyond the appointments that you have. But that means if you do have kids, you're usually there to be able to get them on the bus and get them home from school and have that kind of daytime, put them to bed at night, it's helpful.
Yeah, that's one of the things that I'm always reminding my kids. And I think that it's important to say things out loud, especially with younger kids. So I'll be like, hey, look, it's really nice that I get to do this.
I love that you do that.
I'm really glad that I get to take you to the bus every day and I can drive you to school. And I really appreciate when I'm not there that you can do this by yourself. Mm-hmm. But it's really nice on the days that I get to do that, which is most days.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. So, Sarah, where can people find more information about you and what you do?
You can find me on my website, which is sagemama.rva.com. That kind of goes over, what my services are and what I do kind of in a general doula way. Mm-hmm. I am also on Instagram-ish. Social media is something that just takes a lot of time and energy, and I'm still feeling out what feels honest and right in that particular realm. But you can find me on Instagram at sagemama.rva, and maybe on TikTok as Sarah the Doula. I've got a couple of little short posts on there, and
I like these.
I'm really feeling them out. So,
yeah, these are good.
Trying to carve out a different way of communicating with people there.
Mm-hmm. Love it. And as always, thank you for listening. And you can find us on Instagram and Facebook at ToLabor. Facebook is ToLabor Doulas. You can email me. Please email me, Melanie at tolabor.com. I want to hear feedback. I want to hear questions that you would like answered on this podcast, topics. If you'd like to be a guest, please let me know. We'd love to have you in here. And our website, tolabor.com. We do have a training coming up in December. We have our birth doula training happening December 5th through the 7th, and that will be in person in Richmond, Virginia, and also, of course, on Zoom for those of you around the country and beyond. And thanks for listening.
Thank you so much.
This episode was recorded at Vera House, produced by Perry Young and Mike Metzger. And special thanks to my husband, Jared Russell, for his lighting tweaks and input all along the way.